Ryan,
Tony, and Crystal.
We can't guarantee that you're gonna look great, but if you wanna stay in shape, well, you better hit the GymWits.
That's right, man. Welcome to the GymWits podcast. I'm Ryan George.
I'm Justin Guild, aka Chef Sonic.
And I'm Tony Marinici, aka Tips with Tony, your registered dietitian.
And we are the GymWits. So again, it seems like every time we start a podcast, I say this, but it's been a couple weeks since we recorded. How have you guys been?
We've been consistently inconsistent. I'll give us that.
every couple weeks we make it.
We try to record every week, but we get there every couple weeks. That's still consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're doing the best we can. Everyone knows how tricky things are right now, and that's that. So we're doing the best we can. There's a chance that I might have some episodes recorded that were from pre-COVID. So if we can find those, we'll try to get some of those up for your listening pleasure.
Yeah, I think they'll like that.
Yeah. So what have you been up to, Justin? I know like every other day it's like you're in another city. So where are you now?
Well, I'm just I'm definitely trying to avoid New York, but Nashville is actually not doing great.
Yeah,
right.
New York's probably one of the best places.
I know, ironically, but as far as the COVID is concerned, but as far as everything else, New York is a terrible place to be.
How so?
It's just not fun. It's just not, it's just bad. It's not. I don't find it as a comfortable place to live right now. It's
Why? I'm curious. Just out of curiosity, what?
It's there's a lot of besides the sheer number of people. So while it's doing better, it still seems very risky. It's also very tumultuous. Like there's been, things that are, I'm not going to side with one, but just like there's been a lot of violence. There's been, lots of stuff going on with non-peaceful protesting.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then peaceful protesting that's turned into non-peaceful protesting. Not once again, I'm not going to say whose fault it was, but there's been a lot of stuff like that. There's just been a lot. It's also it's just bizarre. It's just not
New York. It's not where you're.
Like
yeah.
New York. Like it's
not
like
New
what's
York.
the point of being there? It's just not. It's just not fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that people are angry and cooped up, and it's just like I had this weird incident where like this guy who thought that I was blocking him in like drove crazy and like almost rear-ended me and was like driving around, and it's like what the hell is that all about? So I reported him. I'm wondering whether I want to go through with it or not because right now, but it's just like things like that. It's like things are not normal and people are unhappy. People are driving crazy there, and it's just not. I don't know. I'm just not. So I'm staying away. But Nashville is also not great because since they opened everything up again, the rates of COVID have shot through the roof. So, and we knew it was going to happen. So that was that. So I've just been hanging here in Atlantic City. I've been playing poker, making some good money, and going to the beach. So, and grilling.
Sounds nice.
That's it.
Yeah.
That sounds actually really great.
It's not bad.
Making money, laying on the beach, and you said grilling?
Grilling.
So, and eating food. I think that sounds amazing.
The one bad thing, well, you could call it bad. Calling it bad is a first world problem to the max. There's a fresh ice cream creamery that opened up like right around the block. So
that sounds delicious. I don't think that sounds bad at all. That sounds amazing.
Well, it's not necessarily good for my physique. It tastes good.
Yeah. Awesome. All right.
So are you heading back to Nashville? Or are you going to be?
Yeah, I am, because I have some business things I have to do, and I have to start finishing some music. I've got a lot of things that need to be finished, and who knows, with the music industry, might be 2 years before it really starts opening up again. But it is what it is.
And now have they since shut things back down, or is it still?
They've rolled it back to phase 2, and there's talk about rolling it back to phase 1.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Yep.
Oh God. And then we're going to be in flu season, and this is never going to end. Can someone come up with a vaccine or something, please?
Well, it seems like there's some promising news on that front. So at least, from what I understand, there's, we're making progress. So, there should, it quite possibly could be something early next year.
It's just the testing and the stuff. Like you just got
Yeah.
to make sure that it
Oh
doesn't
no,
cause
absolutely.
more harm than good.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I totally agree with that. But it's looking promising, at least, that maybe
Yeah.
still gonna be a long time, and we still have almost 6 months of this type of a situation where there'll be kind of rolling lockdowns probably, and it's just kind of insane how it's all going. And you'd think, like, all right, well, we've talked about it before, but like, just wear a mask, social distance, and the fact that it's kind of been politicized is still kind of crazy. But even here, like, there are a lot of people in New York that don't wear masks, or that are it's less, I think, a political thing than more just not, I don't know, the reasoning why, but they're definitely, we're getting our share of people. Just so far the numbers aren't going up, but I wouldn't be shocked if things, once, as things return, the closer you get to normal, the higher the numbers will go. And I think we'll just be in this pattern of, open things up, lock things back down, and it'll be like this until we get some kind of vaccine.
Yep.
But how have you been, Tony?
I've been good. Before you jumped on, I was telling Justin how my weekends in the summer are super enjoyable because my family's out on Long Island. And so I can spend a lot of time. My sister's condo has a pool, which is super nice. And they practice socially distancing things. And I think it's just so much better because of everything going on to like have kind of like, I feel like I have like a mini vacation on the weekends because I go to a different town. I'm usually in the sun. It's like a lot easier to disconnect because then, with work, you could always be just like on all the time. So it's a nice, I feel rejuvenated.
Yeah.
After a weekend away.
It's hard. Yeah. Because otherwise you're kind of stuck in this, in the same spot, doing the same things, and it can get tedious.
Yeah, for sure. So what do we have on tap for today?
Right, so
Q&A?
Today we're doing an ask the trainer.
I don't know the questions again, guys. Just forewarning, they stopped telling me them before. So you get my really like blunt answers. Hopefully this one's not as problematic as
I do. Well, so I guess we'll do this. So Justin, I know you have some questions too, but maybe
I got some questions too.
So you want to do the ask the trainer dietitian questions first, or
Tony decides.
I don't care. I feel like Justin's are the hardest to answer.
They're not that. They're actually not that hard. These are pretty benign. Here, I'll ask my questions first. Okay. The first question is for you, Tony. It's funny. Like when I travel, I tend to eat although I've been trying to make some better preparations, but I eat more fast food when I travel, and I don't eat all that much fast food, but I definitely do. So I have a question, and then we've all seen or at least know about Super Size Me, that movie, about the guy who ate McDonald's and got really unhealthy because of it. Mm-hmm. So here's my question. And now note that, at least I've heard that fast food restaurants, or at least McDonald's and maybe Burger King, some of the big ones, have made a better effort to improve their ingredient quality. Mm-hmm. So here's my question is, like, eating lots of McDonald's or fast food, besides like the high, really saturated fat and salt and, fried food, right? Is the food there that much worse than, say, if you were to buy beef and potatoes and cook them in a similar fashion from a supermarket? And then the sort of second part of it, and is it really that it's like for someone like in Super Size Me, did the guy really just lose his health because of the food from McDonald's, or because he wasn't eating, that he wasn't eating any greens, he wasn't eating any fruits and vegetables and fiber? Like, is it that McDonald's and fast food is that bad for you, or is it that you're not getting other good stuff?
Great question. More that. So most of the time we know that things that you consume, like you can have fast food and still be part of a healthy diet. But if that's all of your eating and you're not eating fruits and vegetables and drinking water and staying active, then obviously you're going to feel the effects of that on their long-term health, because it will be higher in sodium. And even the saturated fat content, it always depends on like how it's prepared, but realistically, like that in large quantities is just not going to be good for your overall health. But you can definitely have a balanced diet. That cooking from home, I would say, is probably going to be better. Obviously it depends who's the chef in the kitchen. But the ingredients will be more fresh. So therefore, unless you're cooking with a lot of salt, chances are the sodium will be significantly less
Mhm.
than something like that's been, something like a fast food restaurant. Cause a lot of that stuff is like pre-prepared and it's just like cooked and ready to eat. Like, so anything that's ready prepared like that is usually going to have a higher sodium content because they're using that as like a preservation method.
But
So
but
yeah.
is so but people used to say, oh, like McDonald's food, Burger King, KFC is like so bad for you, like because of they like make it seem like the quality of the food, like eating McDonald's burger is so bad, like as if the beef was going to kill you or something like that. Is it
Yeah,
like
no.
is that is sort of a bit of a myth, or is there some truth that the quality of the food itself is also really bad?
No, I mean, obviously, like I don't think they're taking like perfectly lean cut meats that you would get at like a top, like a nice like
Sure.
restaurant. But at the same time, like they wouldn't serve it if it wasn't of a decent quality that someone
Okay.
can consume. And some people, unfortunately, really are, that is what they do, where they're either they don't like that's their budget that allows for them, or they haven't learned how to cook from home more often. So that's where they're getting food. So I like to teach people that even though the options there aren't the best, there are ways to kind of modify or navigate, just like basic things like instead of getting like you don't, maybe if you like a cheeseburger, maybe getting a hamburger. So like not have the
Mhm.
cheese so you can cut back on the sodium and the saturated fat there, or switching to instead of fried chicken getting grilled chicken.
Mm.
There are even ways, I'm pretty sure you can even just say like hold the butter or don't add salt, or you could do french fries with no salt or
Yep.
something like that, like. And
Disgusting.
then and so yeah, I mean, like obviously like you're not gonna do like, it depends how often you go, right? If you go once every few months, then I would probably get the regular fries the way that they make them. But if it's something that you do on a regular basis, then yeah, those small tweaks are really going to add up. And then obviously getting smaller sizes would be beneficial. And then
Mm.
pairing that with maybe a salad you made at home, or having a piece of fruit with it. Although they have that stuff there, but then it's also it's just you have to make a conscious effort to make sure that you're using that balance when you purchase from there.
Oh, okay, good. All right, and now for my question for Ryan. It looks like it's going to be a long time before I get back to doing any kickboxing training. So I'm tempted to get something that I can practice with at home down in Nashville. So
Mhm.
what would you recommend? Just like one of the is there a standing bag, or should I get the Bob? Is that a good thing to get?
Um,
Is there like a decent piece of home equipment? I'm not
I mean,
expecting it to work miracles, but just a little something because I haven't done it at all.
uh, I, I mean, for you, okay. I guess anybody that wants a heavy bag, um,
And note, I
if
can't hang it from the ceiling.
yeah, okay. So that was what I was gonna start with. Your best bet is if you are able to hang it off the ceiling. If you have a beam and somebody that can help you attach a legitimate heavy bag to the ceiling, that's gonna be your best bet. It's the best for actually boxing. It's the best for moving the bag around, for moving around the bag. But very few of us have the space um or the ability, kind of even legally if we're renting to just go up and hook up a heavy bag to the ceiling. So the second option requires a little bit more square footage, like on the floor. Like the good thing about a bag also is you don't need a hanging bag, is you don't really need you need a little bit of space around you, but you can get away with not as much floor space. The second option to me would be to get one of those frames. So it's like a frame that stands on the floor that then you can attach the heavy bag to it. The only problem with that is that because it's a large frame, it's going to need a decent amount of square footage to hook up, and you're probably going to have to set up some like you probably then need some weights to weigh the thing down, and you still need some clearance. So like I know a guy who was selling or giving his away, and I knew somebody who wanted it, but this particular bag was like, the frame was like 8 feet or 9 feet high, and it just didn't fit the guy's basement who wanted to take it off his hand. So there's some a bit, depending on the space you're going to put it. Like if you're going to put it in a basement or, a garage, you just want to make sure you have enough clearance. But the freestanding bag is probably your second best bet, because then you can still hang a heavy bag off of it without being too concerned, about the bag falling. It's a little harder to move around it because you do have like steel on the floor that's not super wide. So it's not as good for kicking. It's not as good for footwork, but it's still, I think, a better option if you want to get a good workout, because you can actually hit the bag hard. Um, then the third option would be like you have the kind of the standing bags. So the ones that have some kind of like a sand or water base. And then the bag is, extending from there, whether it's a bob, which the bob, if you don't know, is kind of like it looks like a person, and I think it's called a sensory bob. And so you have that, or just a regular bag. Bobs are good if you already have bags and if you're working on like accuracy and technique, but the thing is you can't really hit it as hard as you want. And then the same goes for like one of the like the standing bags that are filled with sand or water. Is the way that they're set up, they're not great for hitting really hard. So it's good to practice technique, or if you're doing like kind of more of a cardio workout, but it's a little bit hard if you're like, if you're like Justin, where you've trained or you train and you want to actually work, technique, but you also want to use your power. It's kind of hard to do that with something that's not freestanding or hanging. So yeah, I mean, in your case, if you have space, I would probably get one of the frame and let it hang. If you can't put something in the ceiling, that answers your question.
Okay. Cool.
All right, cool. All right, well, then let's get to the ask the trainer, ask the dietitian questions then.
Okay. All right. So our first question comes from Ashley. And Ashley writes, "Hey guys, long time listener and glad you're back at it." Well, thank you very much, Ashley. I have been exercising consistently for a few years now, and usually get my cardio on a recumbent bike. Running causes my knees to hurt, and I hate the elliptical. My best friend has been trying to get me to use the rower, and he said that it's much more efficient than the bike. Any advice?
So there's a little bit, a good amount to unpack there, actually. So the first thing, the rower is great. It is a good workout. If you have knee problems, you're likely not going to have issues with the rower, but you are driving, you drive and extend the legs, and it's constant motion. So you want to be aware of that. But if you're okay on the bike, I don't think there'll be an issue with the rower. I'd be a little more concerned if you have back problems. So I love the rowing machine. It is really good. The difference, I think, with the rowing and the bike, and this might come down to like your own psyche, is the bike, to an extent, you can kind of ride and just go. You could put on TV, you could listen to music, you can kind of zone out and do it. Rowing is a very technical move. You're using upper body, your core, your lower body, all working, and they're working in sequence, and so the movement is very technical and precise, and you have to keep that up for however long you're doing it. So if you're rowing for an extended period, like let's say if you were biking for 30-40 minutes, you're probably not going to row for 40 minutes. It's hard. And it requires you to be focused on that move a lot. So I think with the rowing, I would start out maybe doing it 5 minutes at a time, but working on the technique. And there are tons of things online you can look up, rowing technique. But the main thing you want to think about is like the way we always thought about it is like legs, torso, arms. You drive through the legs. So imagine you're at the part of the rowing where your knees are all the way bent and your arms are extended. The first move from there is you want to drive your legs. So you're extending the legs. Then that transitions into you extending your lower back. And then that extends into you pulling with the arms. And ideally, the transfer of energy is such that you're not really pulling. Like the arms aren't doing all that much work. It's just kind of like an anchor that's there to help finish off the movement. But like I said, I would go through some tutorials, practice the move, and get comfortable with it. I think for me, what works with rowing is it's really great for like an intense all-out burst. That could be, again, 5 minutes, it could be 3 minutes, it could be 10 minutes, but you're probably not going to use the rower the same way you use the bike. Like you're probably not going to use the rower for long, steady state kind of cardio. And like I said, it's a little bit different because the amount of mental focus needed for it is high, and it's not easy. Like it's a grueling exercise. It's great, And it's definitely efficient. So as your friend said, if like it's efficient because you can get a lot done in a shorter period of time with it, kind of using an interval style or just working really hard for an extended period, but just kind of take your time, get comfortable with the technique before you start to really push yourself with the rower.
So, do you guys think that that Peloton is responsible for COVID because they were like, "Look, everyone's going to be at home, so like, we could all they'll have to buy home exercise bikes." They were like, "Yes, we came along at the right time."
Yeah, it's like
Seriously though, like I
Makes
actually
sense, right?
don't like cycling. I don't like biking. It's really not my thing. And excuse me. I just banged the microphone on accident. I've contemplated getting myself a Peloton so many times, and I don't even like riding bikes. So I'm just like, I need something.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, they probably are behind this.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's like yeah, that's one of those. It's crazy until you think like what like they've done well, probably TRX.
Yeah, no, of course.
If you have fitness equipment to sell,
Can I share a really cool piece of fitness equipment that my boyfriend just got? He's a trainer and I am like so excited to use it. So I don't know if you're familiar with this, but it's basically this piece that goes over a dumbbell and it can turn it into a kettlebell.
yeah, I've heard about.
That's
I've
cool.
seen those. Yeah.
It's so awesome. So you don't have to buy all these different weight size kettlebells. If you have heavy weights, like I have a 40-pound dumbbell that I probably only use sometimes to do like sumo squat type of stuff.
Yeah.
But I can put that now I can use it as a kettlebell.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
No, it's great.
Which is exciting.
I thought about making that when I first got my 3D printer, and I was like, but the problem with that is the prototype would have been really hard to make with a printer because it probably wouldn't have been strong enough to hold. But
I was surprised it held the 40 pounds. Yeah. I was like, what can the weight go up to? Like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. All right, Justin. So what's the next question?
Okay, so the next question, and forgive my pronunciation if it's not correct, comes from Itrat or Idrat. And Idrat says, I have been lifting heavy for the last few years. My routine has been a standard one exercise at a time at 3 to 4 sets and 6 to 12 reps. I've noticed that my strength and size have plateaued over the last few months. I've been considering trying something new like pre-exhaust, but I'm wondering how it works. Do you exhaust the small muscle or the larger ones? Can you explain? Is it a good method? Thanks for all you do. And thank you very much for writing to us.
So pre-exhaust is kind of one of those old school bodybuilding things that isn't bad. Like I've in my my weightlifting days would use it, especially if you want to kind of change things up or get a kick start. There are different ways to go about it. So basically if you guys don't know, like the pre-exhaust method basically is that you would like there are a couple different ideas. So let's say you wanted to do you want to do heavy chests, right? You're doing a bench press, whatever. And since the triceps are involved in the bench press, you would pre-exhaust the triceps in order to use the chest more, which it doesn't always work that way because you need the assistant muscles. But the other idea behind it would be that if you wanted to do a chest press, you would pre-exhaust the pecs, right? Because it's a larger muscle in that move. So you pre-exhaust the chest first with like a chest fly, and then you would go and do the press with the chest already being exhausted. So in some way it might that'll exhaust it even more. So yeah, the idea is like you do some exercise to pre-exhaust something either that is an assistant muscle to kind of take it out of play, or to pre-exhaust a muscle that's going to be working anyway. It's fine. I always found if I was plateauing with weights, I found doing kind of for me like drop sets were if you're kind of doing your more standard kind of bodybuilding stuff, drop sets for me would be the thing that worked for myself, my clients, as far as getting out of plateaus a little bit faster, doing compound sets. So doing the same, it's not too far off from pre-exhaust, but doing things where you're working like the same muscle group back to back with different exercises. Another thing you could try to do is maybe just change up the exercises. Like if you're doing a lot of the same things over and over and over, you will just reach a plateau. There's some point where it's gonna be harder to add weight. And so maybe it might be a good idea to spend a few weeks or months where you just change up the exercises, like keep your routine, but just do some different exercises. Maybe do, a few months where like, again, like a periodized type of thing where you're doing, like, maybe you spend a few months where you just work on something different, do higher reps or focus on cardio. Maybe focus on, if you're not doing like Olympic lifts, try out some Olympic lifts, or if you're not doing kettlebells, use some kettlebells. So you might, instead of thinking about doing like pre-exhaust or any, even drops, maybe just try some different things, try different exercises, or focus on something different. And then, change things up. And then when you get back to it, you might find that you can kind of burst past the plateaus that you've hit.
Cool.
Any follow-ups there, Justin? Or no?
No, that's what I was going to mention, is just, variation. Right. So if you try some different exercises, once you get too used to what you're doing, right, then you always plateau a little bit, because your body's become very efficient at those at the motions, right? And once your body becomes efficient, you're not pushing yourself. So try different things, different types of lifts. As Ryan mentioned, focus on cardio, maybe look at some strongman routines, just anything, there's plenty of stuff out there. One thing is, and Tony could speak to this, is what's going on with your diet, because clearly, if things aren't necessarily right in your diet, you could also hinder your progress. Maybe Tony, you want to speak to that a smidge?
Well, I mean, if he's saying that he's kind of stalled, and it depends what his goal is. So if he's trying to get stronger or lift heavier, then yeah, I mean, fueling properly, using like, pre and post workout fueling, making sure you're having carbohydrates before with a little protein, and then post workout having carbs and protein. So I don't know what he's currently doing, but yeah, I mean, nutrition's always going to help you go like a little bit more. It's going to help you get that next set, that next rep. So yeah, I mean, it could definitely help.
Cool.
Also sleep,
Yes.
Sleep is really, really big, especially for like muscle. That's where your muscles, you're breaking them down when you exercise. That's where they rejuvenate in the evening when you're sleeping. So
one thing you could do if you really wanted to have bigger muscles is get the muscle implants. Now it goes against
oh my gosh.
everything, but it would be really quick. It'd be expensive, but like, you could do that, or you could, I don't recommend it, but you could shoot the synthol right into your biceps and be like one of those freaks that have like those enormous beanbag biceps. Tony, would you ever date a guy who had a bicep like that?
I don't know. Probably not. Oh man.
All right. So the next question comes from Matthew, and Matthew says, "Hey everyone. Hey Matthew, thanks for writing in. COVID has really kicked my workout routine in the behind." Yes. Welcome to modern life. I know it's prior to March, I was doing great, but my gym has been closed for months and I have no idea when it will reopen. I finally decided to bite the bullet and purchase a home gym. I have a spare room in my house that is about 10 by 10. Can you recommend a good setup that makes the most of the space?
All right. So let's see. So 10 by 10. Well, again, I guess part of it's also the price. So obviously I would say, and then there are other factors like what your own preference. I would say, if you're comfortable with like dumbbells and kettlebells, I would probably go with getting some kettlebells. So getting, maybe like a 15, 25, 35, 45. Again, a lot of this depends on the kinds of weights you can use with the kettlebells. I would say, power blocks are great as far as dumbbells because, they fit in a small space. So you don't need to, like you can do 85 pounds you go up to 85 pounds that would fit, a very small space. If power blocks are a little too expensive, Bowflex makes like an adjustable dumbbell that's not too bad. And again, if Bowflex is even if that's a little out of the range, then you can just get get the dumbbells that you plate loaded dumbbells that you can add. So I would say definitely kettlebells and dumbbells I would want to start with as kind of staples of your routine. I would get a physio ball. If you can, I would get a Bosu as well because that can add a lot of movements. A lot of cool stuff that you can do cardio wise with the Bosu. You could get a bench. But if you're comfortable with the physio ball, there are a lot of the things you can do with the bench, you can do with physio ball and with dumbbells. So you don't necessarily have to. But if you have space, you could get a bench. But you could use it if you want to do dips and things like that. You can always use like a chair around the house as long as it's sturdy. um if you're okay with functional movements, I'd probably just get a TRX and some bands, and that's it. Like, you don't really, that way you have an open space. You can, you have space to do cardio and conditioning drills, but you also have the variety with the bands and the TRX. If you're not comfortable with all the free stuff and like you want a machine, then you're probably better off getting kind of one of those, like a multi-gym. And they're all kinds. They sell a bunch now. So I can put a link in the notes to like some decent brands. But like, just a multi-gym is all there are tons of multi-gyms that can allow you to do a lot of different movements, and that even allow you to kind of choose what parts you want to add to it. And or in lieu of the multi-gym, you might want to get a cable crossover machine. It's just a matter of getting one that will fit in the space. But a cable crossover gives you a lot of the variety that you would need for like machine exercises. It gives you a little more variety, but again, that's a little bit up to you. So if you're the type of person, you go into the gym and like, let's say if you decide I want to get a machine. If you're the type that goes in the gym and you're comfortable using that cable machine and adjusting it and setting up your own exercises, I would go with that. If you're not and you'd rather something just tell you what to do, then you're probably better off getting like a multi-gym, because they're easy. They've got the press, they've got the leg press, they've got the pull downs, they've got the rows, and you don't have to like think too much. But if you would like to kind of add more variety and add more, make it more dynamic and give you a lot more things to do, the cable crossover machines can be a little bit better, because it's adjustable and you can do almost everything you can do on a multi-gym with that. It just takes a little bit more work and thought and kind of effort to put into it. The one other thing is, like, I would say for that space, I wouldn't get a cardio machine, because unless you're somebody who like you need to do the cardio inside, because I'd say you could either get your cardio done through conditioning work or running outside. For a 10 by 10 space, it gets tight really quickly if you're incorporating all that equipment. But again, if you have to, then anything, Peloton is good. Treadmill, they sell tons of good treadmills at this point that are compact and you can put in the space. So a little bit of that depends on you and what you're comfortable with. But 10 by 10, there's a lot of room to work with, and you can do a lot, but it really does depend on your own kind of proclivities. So I hope it helps. And if you have more follow up, send us an email with like a little more detail on what your own background is. And if you have follow up questions, I'm definitely happy to work more through that with you.
A couple of things I would add. Yes, you could do it all with a dumbbell, but especially if you love, even if you don't have a bench with a bench press on it, I think that the barbell full size, if you're able to make that work adjustable. I know then now you have to get racks of weights and stuff like that, which is not necessarily fun and it's pain. But there's so many exercises, deadlifts, all types of presses and things like that. So I think that having an adjustable barbell is valuable. But another thing, and Ryan is an expert in this, if it's possible, you could put a pull-up bar on the door frame. There's a lot, Ryan wrote a book on it, and that takes up almost no space. And if your door frame is able to handle a pull-up bar, there's so many great exercises that you can do with it, and it takes up almost no space.
Yeah. So that the only thing with that is sometimes it's not the most sturdy in the world. So you just want to be careful that your door can handle it.
Make sure that
if
can handle
you
it.
end up going with like a cable cross, most of them will have a pull-up bar set up with it. Like you don't even need that. Like it would have the pull-up bar set. But no, that's a good point. And that's something, especially if you're going for the more bare functional space, then a door frame pull-up bar would be a nice add, because you can do pull-ups. You can use the bands to do assisted pull-ups if you have a hard time doing free pull-ups. So definitely a good idea.
And 10 by 10 and a jump rope.
Yes, good call. Jump rope.
Always a jump rope. Always about the jump rope.
By the way, I haven't used my jump rope yet. This is the thing about these equipment. You have to use them. So when you're thinking about buying them, make sure you feel like you're going to actually utilize it.
Yeah, and it's like that's why it's so important to use what you enjoy using. So if you enjoy
Yeah.
free weights, base your home gym around free weights.
That's
If
a
you like,
Yeah.
really good point. Yeah,
you
for
know, if you
sure.
like cables, you base it around cables. You
Yeah.
know, stuff like that.
Like when I had like, but granted it was, I was also like, I had clients, but like my, home gym when I had like a setup was, I had a cable cross that was from, I think it was Hammer Strength made a cable cross. Now and so the other thing to think about with some of the, with the cable cross, with the multi gym, is they have plate loaded ones, so the ones where you literally have to like load up the plates as you want to increase or decrease the weights. And then they have ones where it's like a regular selector, you just stick a pin in the weight, and obviously that's a lot easier, but it's also a lot more expensive for that style. But I had like a cable cross that was the plate loaded, which was a little annoying, but that was what I used. I had a bench, but it was like, it was a rack, so it wasn't even a bench. It was like a rack, like a mini squat rack that you could adjust, and then I had a bench with that, so I could use that space for squats, or I could use that for bench press. And then like I had the TRX and the bands and the power blocks, and a Bosu. And I believe that space was about 10 by 10, maybe a little bit bigger. But everything fit comfortably, and pretty much had everything I needed in that space. So again, a little bit depends on the person and what you're looking for. But like, I wanted to be able to do squats. I didn't want the bench press as much, but I did want it for clients. So, needed that. I like the cable crossover machine. I really think it's one of the best, as far as free weight equipment or weight equipment in the gym. It's one of the best. So I wanted one of those. And then obviously all the functional stuff I wanted to keep as well.
Cool. All right. So our last question for the day comes from Enrique. And Enrique says, "Hi, Tony. Greetings from Ohio. I have a nutrition related question for you. Over the past few months, I have been trying to make better food choices as per your advice on the podcast. Now, I would like to get a little more specific. Is there an easy way to estimate calories and macros? For reference, I'm a male, 6 feet and 198 pounds. I am about 25% body fat. I'd love to get down to 180 and 15% body fat. Thanks so much. Hope you are enjoying your summer. And thank you, Enrique, for writing in."
Sure.
Enrique.
Yeah. So I actually do have a full podcast about this. So I'm going to just quickly look up what a number of the Tips of Tony podcast it actually is. But in that podcast, I discuss there's many different ways to calculate your calories. And I don't believe in like the generic formulas, because I think you have to factor things like your height, your weight, your age, your activity level, all of those things. And so a very generic calculator is not really going to do that. But the most common one, the one that I use with my clients, is an equation called Mifflin St. Jour. And you can find that honestly online. You can just type in like Mifflin St. Jour calculator, and it's going to ask you for those things that I just said. Being able to estimate your activity level is a little challenging there. So I actually usually will just put in like, so the activity factor, it goes by like 1.0, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4 based off of how active you are. I usually just do like a base like 1.2, like in a hospital setting, for example. If you're really sedentary, we'll put a stress factor of like 1.2. It's like a pretty standard thing. That's usually what I do. And then I make my own calculations based off of how active the person is. And then it just depends on if he wants to be in a caloric deficit, or if he's just trying to like, what is the actual goal, did he say?
Well, it sounds like he
Yeah.
wants to
He wants to get
lose,
down
like
about
So
drop his
he
18
body
did
fat
say he
about
pounds.
wanted to,
10%, but he
yeah.
also wants to lose about, I forget how
18
much weight.
pounds. He wants to
Yeah.
lose 18
So
pounds.
if you want to lose weight, but also by dropping, you basically are trying to achieve fat loss. So not just weight loss, right? So if you wanted to just lose weight, you could just be in a straight caloric deficit and you would lose weight. But the goal is to not just lose weight, but the goal is to preserve your muscle mass. So that way, the weight that you do have in your body is still healthy. It supports your organs and your tissues. And that way, your basal metabolic rate, the way that your calories burn, your energy at rest, we don't want that to go down. But naturally, and somebody loses weight, someone who's of a lower weight needs less calories. So naturally, like, you will require less calories over time. But if you keep up with your physical activity, you keep working on things like strength training, and you increase your protein, then the chances of you having to kind of adjust too much is probably not likely. So let me just get him that, because that's going to explain it into greater detail. And then what we can do is maybe you guys just forward me that email and I can give him more specifics. I could actually calculate it for him.
Sure.
So let me just
So just a question here.
I found it.
Oh.
Sorry.
Say
Episode
first.
122 of the Tips with Tony podcast. It's episode 122. And the link for the Mifflin St. George calculator that I use is in the show notes for that one.
So just looking at the numbers here, and Tony, you could let me know if this maps out. So he's 200 pounds, right? And he's 25% body fat, which means he has 50 pounds of body fat on him. That would be correct, right? If he's 25% body, like, does it work that way?
No.
Okay.
No, he would need to figure out. Wait, I'm sorry. Can
He
you
says
repeat that statement?
So he says he's 200 pounds and he says he's about 25% body fat. So is that safe to say that 50 pounds of his overall weight is fat? 25% of 200 is 50.
No, because
so it doesn't work that way.
No, because your body has more than just you have water weight, you have muscle.
But that's what he's saying. He's part. Okay, so now this is a question. So I know. So his overall weight is 200 pounds. And when it says 25% of body fat, what is that 25%? How would you calculate actually how much in weight he has of fat on him?
I guess what you're saying is that 25% of that total body weight
would be about 50%.
Would be
50 pounds. Does it work that way?
Like that.
Is it,
to be honest, I don't know. I feel like logically you could say yes, but I could also find ways that could be no.
Okay. Because I was just curious, because if it's 25% body fat, and he wants to lose 10% of the body fat, that I don't know if that maps out to 18 pounds.
Doesn't, because
but it doesn't work that way.
It doesn't
right?
work that way.
Okay,
because
all right.
when you lose weight from water, muscle,
Sure.
body fat. So it's hard to really say. So that's why I was saying earlier, if nothing else changed, then yes, that would make sense. But that's
okay.
It
never works that way. Okay.
No.
It's interesting. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that was a good question. Sorry, I was a little confused, but I get what you're asking now.
Cool. Well, thanks for writing in, everyone. As always, we appreciate it, and we love doing these. The Ask the episodes. So, and the more you guys write in, the more we want to do these episodes.
Cool. All right, I guess that's it. Anything else you guys want to share?
No. Nothing of too much worth right now.
Yeah. No, it's been a crazy few weeks.
Sure.
Hopefully we'll get back on track and back to a normal schedule. I don't foresee anything crazy over the next few weeks. But in the era of 2020 has been
anything goes for 2020
year.
Seriously.
Yeah. All right. Well, as usual, I'm Ryan George.
I'm Justin Guild, aka Chef Sonic, reminding you that truth does not sell, but definitely home gym equipment, Pelotons, like does.
And I'm Tony Marinucci, aka Tips with Tony, a registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time.
And we are the GymWits.